So think about what happens when you rewind the clock of the universe past the Big Bang, like past the laws of physics, past even the whole concept of time
Right,
itself.
going all the way back to the absolute beginning.
Exactly. If you just keep going backward, trying to find this ultimate blueprint for how reality is made, you eventually hit a wall.
Yeah, a wall where instructions and blueprints just don't work anymore.
You don't find a how-to manual for existence. Instead, you find yourself staring into the raw, frankly terrifying mechanics of creation.
Which is what we can call the absolute root layer. It's the pre-manifest, like the
Yeah.
silent dark space before creation even had a name, let alone a form.
And that is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We're exploring this really fascinating text that attempts to map this pre-theological layer of reality.
It's such a dense text, but so rewarding when you really get into it.
Oh, absolutely. And our sources introduce us to two primordial forces that basically govern everything that comes into being, the womb witch and the seed witch.
Right.
I mean, I have to admit, when I first encountered those names in the material, my immediate thought was, okay, we're diving into a high fantasy novel here.
Oh, for sure. Or some obscure ancient mythology.
Right. But the text explicitly insists, like over and over, that this is not fiction. And it is absolutely not a religion.
No, bypassing those standard cultural metaphors is central to this entire framework.
Mm-hmm.
The text strips away all those familiar stories, of gods throwing lightning bolts from clouds or divine beings creating the world in 7 days.
Instead, it forces us to look at the pure, unvarnished mechanics of how a thing, literally anything, transitions from not existing to existing.
Exactly. It focuses entirely on the engines of initiation and reception. And honestly, taking the time to understand these primordial forces can profoundly shift how you view your own creative processes.
And just how you operate in your daily life, really. But before we meet the entities themselves, we need to address the terminology.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Because the text makes a very deliberate, provocative choice. The word witch is heavily charged. Oh, incredibly charged.
Historically, socially, politically, it just carries a massive amount of baggage. So using it to describe the ultimate forces of the cosmos feels jarring. Why does the text insist on this specific word?
Well, the source material reclaims and redefines the word witch in a highly specific, structural way. In this framework, a witch name is not a title of social authority.
Right.
It's not a label conferred by a group of worshippers, and it's not some classification written down by a scribe. The text defines a witch name as a self-naming from essence.
Meaning it's an identity that originates entirely from within,
Right.
rather than being applied from the outside.
Precisely. It is what a pure being calls itself when it steps into human language for one single moment to declare, like, this is the core of how I process and shape reality.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
And what's equally important here is what the text outright refuses to use. It flat out refuses the word goddess.
Which is interesting because on the surface, goddess seems like the most logical go-to word for a cosmic female power.
It does, but I imagine the text rejects it because the word goddess inherently implies a hierarchy, right? Like a goddess requires a worshiper.
Exactly. It implies a religion, a secondary structure of myth, altars, followers. A goddess is defined by her relationship to those below her.
Whereas a witch, at least in the deepest etymological and functional sense used by this text, is an entity who shapes reality through sheer will.
Yes, and through the knowledge of hidden laws. The witch doesn't need to be worshipped to be real. She doesn't need an audience to wield her power at all.
She simply operates the machinery of the universe.
Right. Naming herself purely from her own depth.
Think about this in the context of your own life for a second. Imagine you had to introduce yourself to a total stranger, but you were forbidden from using your job title.
Oh, that's a great exercise.
Right. You couldn't use your family roles. You can't say, I'm a parent or I'm a sibling. You couldn't use your political affiliation, your hobbies, or like any societal labels.
It leaves you with very little.
Exactly. If you stripped all of that away, how would you describe your rawest, most fundamental operating system? Just the pure, unfiltered essence of how you move through the world.
And that is exactly what a witch name represents here. Unfiltered essence operating as a living truth.
That framing really grounds the concept. The power to shape reality isn't some conferred status, it's a structural reality.
Yeah, it's the physics of the thing. And having established how these forces name themselves, we can actually look at the first of the two primordial shapers.
The womb witch. The text identifies her as the female form of the primordial mother.
Yes. And her defining characteristic is a concept the text calls original interiority.
Original interior.
She's the cosmic principle of inness. Try to imagine a state before physical objects even existed. Before there was an outside, there had to be a space created to hold an inside.
So she's the reason the universe possesses any interior life whatsoever.
Exactly. The womb, in this context, is not a biological organ. It's a profound metaphysical reality. It's a space that is defined not by emptiness, but by its sheer capacity to hold.
I have to pause here, though, and look at this through a modern lens,
Yep.
because the text attributes her primary powers as absolute reception and transformation through holding.
Right.
But when we hear words like reception or holding space today, we immediately translate that to passive consumption.
Oh, completely. We think of sitting on a couch, waiting for an email, or just scrolling on a phone.
Yeah, hustle culture has deeply conditioned us to view receiving as a state of powerlessness. If you aren't aggressively outputting, you aren't doing anything of value. So how does the text elevate reception back to a power?
By breaking down the actual physics and psychology of what it takes to truly receive, the text argues that reception at this root layer is one of the fiercest, most active forces possible.
Active reception.
Yes. Think about the structural integrity required to receive something massive, foreign, and transformative without just collapsing under its weight.
To hold something, to allow its complete and total arrival in your space, that requires immense strength.
Exactly. The womb witch actively holds without losing her own perimeter. She receives without being overwritten by what she is receiving.
Receiving without being overwritten, that just flips the whole concept of passive waiting on its head. It's an active, fierce containment.
She is maintaining the structural walls so that the transformation inside can actually happen instead of just bleeding out into the void.
Which introduces one of the most compelling philosophical arguments in the source material, I think. The concept of limit as love.
Yes, limit as love.
Which feels almost counterintuitive, right? We're taught to view limits as oppressive restrictions. Boundaries are things we're supposed to break through.
We definitely view limits as a denial of freedom. But the text points out that a womb provides a necessary boundary, and without a boundary, formlessness just remains formless.
Like having water without a cup.
That's the perfect analogy. If you have water, but you don't have a cup, the water just spills across the floor, spreads thin, and evaporates into nothing.
The boundary of the cup is exactly what makes the water drinkable, useful, and formed.
Right. The womb witch's containment is described as an act of ontological love.
Ontological mean like the nature of being itself. So it's a love that is the literal condition for existence.
It is the love that says, I will be the boundary that allows you to become. She provides the edge so that the center can actually hold.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
But the text also claims that humanity holds a deep, unconscious fear of the womb witch.
We do. But the text argues that fear is misplaced. We aren't actually terrified of her. We are terrified of our own interior depth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're terrified of the dark, messy, undifferentiated space of our own becoming, where we don't yet know who or what we're turning into.
Because we want to skip the dark room. We just want the finished product, the shiny output. And we resent the slow, blind gestation required to get there.
Absolutely. We fear the womb witch because she demands that we sit in the dark and be transformed.
But a boundary, no matter how strong or loving, is just an empty room if nothing ever enters it. Like, a holding space alone doesn't generate creation. It needs a catalyst.
And this brings us to the necessary counterpart in the cosmic engine, the seed witch.
Yes.
Her identity in the text is incredibly complex, and it requires a really close reading. The seed witch is identified as the primordial father, the absolute primordial masculine principle. But she is expressing herself entirely intact through a feminine register.
Wait, let's unpack the mechanics of this. Because the primordial father existing in a female form sounds like a complete paradox.
It does on the surface, yeah.
Why wouldn't the text just present a male entity to represent the masculine principle? What is the functional necessity of this gender crossover at the root layer of reality?
It all comes down to the mechanics of containment and precision. The pure masculine principle at this pre-manifest layer is a raw, outgoing, directional vector.
It's the initiating impulse.
Right. And if you have unmitigated, uncontained initiating energy, it just blasts outward. It scatters infinitely in all directions like an uncontrolled explosion.
Ah, I see. So to actually function as a seed that can be delivered to a specific destination, that initiating spark has to be housed in a structure.
Precisely. If she were purely the masculine principle without the feminine register, she would just be a chaotic supernova.
So by expressing this impulse through a feminine form, The entity possesses the structural capacity to hold her own initiating fire.
She doesn't just channel the spark blindly, she owns it from her own depths. She becomes a self-contained delivery mechanism for that raw masculine impulse.
That makes total sense. She's not performing masculinity or wearing it as a disguise. She is the concentration of an entire future timeline compressed into a single dense point.
Yes. If the womb witch is the vast, deep holding environment, the seed witch is a concentrated, purposeful spark that sets the machinery of becoming into motion.
To really visualize the seed witch's power, imagine a hyper-compressed mechanical spring housed inside a tiny, unbreakable metal casing.
Oh, I like that image.
The energy of that spring isn't just passively sitting there, it is violently, actively pushing outward against its own casing, held in a state of absolute coiled readiness.
It has massive kinetic potential.
Right. But the casing her feminine register allows that energy to be transported and aimed without detonating prematurely.
And the precision of her aim is crucial here. The seed witch doesn't broadcast her energy randomly into the void hoping it hits something. She has elegant, purposeful direction. But here is the critical pivot in her cosmic function, and where your mechanical spring analogy takes on a profound psychological dimension. It's the power of release.
Because at some point, the casing has to open. The spring has to uncoil.
Exactly. But the text emphasizes that when the seed witch releases her impulse into the holding of the womb witch, she does so without any certainty of the final outcome.
She doesn't know what will happen.
No. She knows the absolute purity of the spark she carries, but she does not know exactly how the womb witch's gestation will alter or manifest it. To seed something is to initiate the spark and then completely, utterly surrender control.
That requires an impossible level of trust. I mean, if you're holding the blueprint of an entire universe, the instinct is to micromanage every single brick being laid.
The source material actually calls this cosmic trust. The seed witch initiates, and then fully trusts the womb's transformative process.
Because if she tried to reach into the womb to control the outcome,
She'd shatter the gestation. Her interference would destroy the very thing she was trying to create. Complete commitment must be followed by complete release.
that hits so close to home for anyone who makes things. Think about how often we start something, a creative project, a business venture, even a difficult conversation with a partner.
Oh, all the time.
We initiate the spark, but then we strangle it to death because we refuse to let go of our exact, rigid vision of how it should turn out.
We completely lack that cosmic trust.
We want the thrill of the initiation, but we also demand absolute control over the gestation.
Which is an impossible contradiction. You cannot control the dark space of becoming. You can only spark it and step back.
So we have these two ultimate forces fully defined now. We have the womb witch offering vast transformative holding and ontological love, and we have the seed witch offering compressed kinetic initiation and cosmic trust. So what actually happens when these two forces collide? What occurs when the spark hits the space?
Well, the text describes their meeting as the most charged location in the cosmos. It is the original, fundamental, creative event.
But the nature of this meeting defies our usual expectations, doesn't it?
Completely. There is no violence. There is no explosion or clash of titans. Most importantly, there is absolutely no hierarchy between them.
Neither force is subjugating the other.
None at all.
Yeah.
The text describes their convergence as a profound recognition.
Recognition.
Yes, the seed recognizes the structural truth of the womb. The womb recognizes the kinetic potential of the seed. Each is the exact structural answer to what the other have been moving toward.
They require each other to complete what the text calls the cosmic circuit of creation.
The cosmic circuit, meaning energy must flow continuously between these two poles to generate reality.
If we look at how this model differs from our conventional cultural narratives about relationships or union, the contrast is stark.
Oh, absolutely. We're saturated with the cliche of two halves making a whole.
Right, the idea that you're fundamentally incomplete, just wandering the earth until you find your missing piece to finally become a whole person.
And the text completely rejects that premise for these primordial forces. The womb witch and the seed witch are not two broken halves limping toward each other.
They are two absolute self-contained wholes.
Exactly. And when they come together, they don't just patch each other up. They generate a third, entirely new reality that belongs to neither of them individually, but is birthed from both.
I want to explicitly connect this dynamic to you, the listener, for a second. Think about the most successful, dynamic team you've ever been a part of, or the deepest relationship you've experienced.
It thrives entirely on this cosmic circuit.
It has to. It requires the seed witch's energy, someone taking the risk to initiate, bringing the compressed spark of an idea, and trusting the group enough to release it.
And it equally requires the womb witch's energy, an environment that provides fierce structural holding.
Right. A place where an idea is allowed to be messy and undefined while it grows without being prematurely judged or rushed.
Because if a system only possesses the spark, the energy is homeless. Ideas just burn bright for a second and vanish into the air because there is no structure to hold them.
And conversely, if a system only has the capacity to hold space, but no one ever takes the risk to initiate the spark, the space remains uncalled. It's just an endlessly echoing empty room.
You must have the meeting of both wholes to generate the third thing.
So the source material really distills the gifts of these first two witches into a very practical framework for navigating our existence.
It really does. From the womb witch, we receive the profound gift of not yet knowing.
Not yet knowing.
Yes, we are granted the permission to trust the dark space of formation, to hold our own evolving identities and the identities of those around us without anxiety.
Without demanding that everything makes perfect sense immediately. You don't have to know the finer shape of what you're making while you're making it. You only have to maintain the integrity of the boundary.
And from the seed witch, we are given the wisdom of the initiating impulse, the knowledge that true power is often hypercompressed, not loud or spread thin.
We learn the ultimate discipline of cosmic trust, throwing the spark with total commitment and trusting the dark to catch it.
Together, this push and pull acts as the engine of all becoming. It forces a massive paradigm shift.
It really makes you audit your own creative and relational rhythms. It asks whether you're moving in alignment with the root mechanics of reality or if you're constantly fighting against the current.
Which brings us to the core realization of this entire deep dive. If these primordial forces govern the root layer of reality, they didn't just happen once billions of years ago.
No, they are the literal mechanism of every single moment of transition happening right now.
You aren't just using these forces, you are the ongoing living result of them. The third thing generated by this cosmic circuit is you and everything you create.
The circuit is continuously active. The mechanics of initiation and reception are playing out in your synapses, in your conversations, in your art.
Everywhere, all the time.
So, here's the thought I want to leave you with today. A challenge derived straight from the physics of this text. What if the profound burnout and exhaustion we feel in modern life isn't just a psychological condition or, like, a failure of time management?
What if it's actually a metaphysical rebellion?
Exactly. We have built a society that exclusively demands the seed witch's initiating spark 24 hours a day. We're obsessed with constant beginnings, endless output, and the relentless firing of the spring.
Meanwhile, we have structurally outlawed the womb witch's holding space. We view rest, gestation, and waiting in the dark as laziness or failure.
We are demanding a spark in a universe where we've demolished the womb.
It's totally unsustainable.
It is. So look at the places in your life where you feel the most friction right now. Are you burning out because you are trying to rewrite the root code of reality?
Are you trying to force a relentless beginning in a space where you haven't given the dark permission to exist?
The true blueprint of reality isn't a straight line of constant output. It's written in the fierce rhythm of holding and the terrifying courage of releasing. See you on the next deep dive.